Welcome back. It's time for another edition in Silver and Black today, an Odyssey Sports original podcast covering the Las Vegas Raiders. Thanks for joining us. I'm Scott Branson, along with my co-host Mo Moton. Mo is the senior NFL writer at Bleacher Report, and he's also the Raiders columnist at sportsnaut.com. You can follow him on x.com at Mo Moton, Moemoton. Make sure you bring your food takes, right? Especially it's the holiday season. Yeah. Mo will get you clear on what you should be eating for Thanksgiving. But a happy early Thanksgiving to all of you. Make sure you follow me as well, LV Gully on x.com. Also the show SNB Today. Appreciate that as always. Always happy to dialogue with everybody out there. And our video brought to you by our good friends again at BetUS. And again, I got to tell you about this great deal, 150% sign-up bonus. Use the code YouTube150. That's YouTube150. And you get that 50% bonus up to, guess what, $2,000. So go do that. Start playing today from our good friends at BetUS. All right, Mo, we're back. This is the first time we've spoken since the Raiders lost to 29-19 to the Broncos. And we see yet another double-digit loss for the Raiders. And not only that, but we see Gardner Minshew out for the season with an injury. And we saw another subpar Gardner Minshew performance. And I think you said it best. You were dialoguing with somebody online, and people were blaming injuries. And while injuries certainly play a major factor in how any team performs, that's not the reason the Raiders have been beaten so badly so many times this year. Mo, they're clearly just not a very good football team at the moment.
Not a good football team. You can question the coaching. You can question the preparation. You can question the execution. You can question all of the above, but whatever the case may be, they're not winning football games because they're just a poor football team. It's not solely because of injuries. It's not solely because this player's not in the field. This isn't correct. Show me the team that's fully healthy and everything is working in their favor. The NFL is all about being able to adjust on the fly, having depth to compensate for some of your injuries because you know you're going to have them. And the Raiders are poor in those areas. And Scott, you and I, before we got on, we talked about the post-game presser that popped up with Antonio Pierce talking about his offense. And it seems like the coaching staff, there's either a miscommunication or a disconnect there. So that adds on to what you're seeing on the field, the lack thereof of a good product on the field.
Right. And I want to read that quote because it blew my mind. That's why I texted you as soon as it happened, because Antonio Pierce was asked, hey, listen, you started to run the ball a little better with Sincere McCormick and Amir Abdullah. Did you guys not want to run the ball more, or what happened? And Pierce said, quote, of course, I don't want to see the ball thrown 40 times. I've said that like 1,000 times, but that's been kind of our MO. Actually, it was 53 today, so they threw 53 times. And Mo, I listen. There a lot of things can be true here, but the thing when I saw that and when I heard it, and it just stopped me in my tracks because you have the head coach of the team in the NFL saying that he does not want to throw the ball 40 times. So I'm assuming, and tell me if I'm wrong, I'm assuming he told his offensive coordinator, now Scott Turner, who has his dad Norv Turner there, a former head coach, very experienced guy. I'm sure, I assume he told his coach that. And it sounds like he's been telling his coaches that because he said, I've been saying, right? That's not like, hey, I told them this week. I've been giving them this direction for a while, which I assume also includes Luke Getsy. But they throw the ball 53 times. And to me, that's another major indictment against Antonio Pierce and leadership and coaching this team. And to me, you might look at that, and some of you out there watching or listening might say, well, what's the big deal? It is a big deal because that either means A, he's not saying it to them, or B, he's saying it to them and they're doing it anyway.
I think he is saying it to them because he said it publicly about being able to establish the run. I feel like Antonio Pierce has been on this since late September that we got to get the run game going. We got to get Zamir White going. Now, Zamir White was hurt last Sunday, didn't play, but his message has been consistent about getting the run game on track and making the commitment to the run. So I look at it as he wants it done one way and the offense coaches are doing it a different way because of game flow. Now, I wouldn't use that as an excuse on Sunday because that game was mostly competitive. Now, the Raiders did lose 29-19 by 10 points, but the game was in hand. Like, it was in the balance going into in the fourth quarter. It didn't fall apart till late. So there was no reason for the Raiders to abandon the run game. So if Antonio Pierce wants his offense run a certain way, you would expect it's going to be run that way because he is the head coach. Even though he's not an offensive X's and O's guy, he's supposed to set the direction for the team. So if your head coach is supposed to set the direction for the team and that team is not following that direction, what does that tell you? There's a problem.
Exactly. And those are the continued red flags that we see. And I just think it's unacceptable because outside of, and I thought Antonio Pierce actually did a few things with game management, especially early on. And well, by the way, I thought he improved in that area. And then I also thought they were well prepared at the beginning of this game. I also believe that his desire to be more aggressive, like with the fake punt and some of these other play calls that we saw, was great. So I gave him all credit for that on our postgame show. But at the same time, I look at the team again, and outside of defense tackling better, I think that's been better over the last couple of games as far as less missed tackles and broken tackles. But beside that, I don't see any part of this team getting considerably better. And that, to me, continues to be an indictment on the coaching, not just Antonio Pierce, but his staff. And so that's a concern as well. And like you said, this game was close, but what was the difference? I think two things. I think coaching a little bit, but I also think that Bo Nix, you have better quarterback play. We saw it yesterday with a lot of these games that even went down to the wire. What was the difference? The difference was you have competent quarterback play. Bo Nix has come in there and lifted that team up. If that team didn't have him, who knows? The Broncos might be under 500 too, but now they stand 4.5 games ahead of the Raiders, and they've swept them for the first time in a long time. And it goes to show you how a young quarterback who can perform can change a team's fortune very quickly, Mo.
An interesting stat came up across my timeline. The Raiders have lost 8 consecutive games to rookie quarterbacks.
Wow.
So yeah, I my jaw dropped when I saw that too. I understand it's a team game, but usually you take advantage of inexperienced, i.e., rookie quarterbacks. You look it up. 8 consecutive losses to teams with rookie quarterbacks. I mean, I don't I don't know what to say to that other than if you're a competent football team, one, now we know that the Raiders defense has been a dumpster fire for years, and then Patrick Graham he elevated it. Defense has fallen off this year, but if you're thinking about it from a perspective of, your franchise history and track record, this is why the Raiders are looked at as the get right game. Whether it's a rookie going against the Raiders defense or a team just trying to get off the schneid and snap a losing streak or, reverse curse, whatever you want to call it. The Broncos now sweeping the Raiders this season after the Raiders beating them for 5 straight years. The Raiders are that get right game for a lot of teams, and that has to end. And it hasn't ended with Antonio Pierce. I don't know who the head coach is going to be at this point. I don't think it's going to be Antonio Pierce in 2025. As the weeks go by, there's just more and more ammunition for me to say he is not going to be back. But whoever it is the head coach of the Raiders, they have to make sure that opponents respect them, because I don't think opponents respect the Raiders. They may say the right things at these podiums and public pressers and stuff like that. But when you look at the Raiders on your schedule, are you really afraid to go to Allegiant Stadium to play this football team? Now, you may have some respect, profound respect for Max Crosby, and you should. But the team, as a football team, when you see the Raiders pop up on your schedule, you're thinking, man, we got to strap it up for that game. Or are you thinking, oh, that could be our get right game? And I think it's the latter right now, Scott, and that's a problem.
Yeah, there's none of the physicality, pain, ill intent, all that stuff. It just hasn't materialized for whatever reason. That has to do a little bit with I think the roster. It has to do with how the coaching has performed and players perform. And there doesn't seem to be that edge. I think that Max Crosby after the game was asked about tanking, which was ridiculous. They're professional ball players. They play to win. I don't care what your record is. And I think just thinking about it, I know fans talk about it and I get it, but that's not ever in the player's mind. They want to work hard. And so you see some of the guys working hard out there. And I think that this is, again, as you and I have been saying the last couple of weeks now, since it became very clear that this team wasn't really going anywhere, that you have to look at development. You have to look at how some of these young players play and start to, and if you're Tom Telesco, you certainly are looking at the list and saying, okay, here's check mark. This is a guy that I think we want to bring back because he's showing out and he's playing hard despite the odds and despite the way the season has gone. And then there's other guys you're like, meh, if he walks or if we let him go, not a big deal. So I think that's where you're at now. You're in roster evaluation time, and Max Crosby's always going to bring it. And some of these other guys, you see the offensive line, young in certain spots. DJ Glaze yesterday, of course, Jackson Powers-Johnson, another penalty, couple penalties, I think, actually. And so you expect that from a rookie, but you're starting to get a core of a young offensive line there, so you need to build on that. But this team overall is poorly coached. It's poorly prepared, usually. Again, give them credit for the Denver game. I thought they did better. But this is a situation, Mo, where you have to look at it, and instead of pointing fingers of blame, you look forward and look towards the future. And I think that's what fans have to do too, is say, hey, look at these guys, see who's playing hard. Look at Tyree Wilson, had his game. You said it on X, right? You said, is this the Tyree Wilson game? And it was sort of that way. I mean, he really performed better than I've seen him ever play, more of a complete game than I've ever seen him play. I want to see him. If he can do that the rest of the season, boy, that's going to be a big step up for the Raiders if they could get him to perform at a level like that.
Yeah, if you're trying to find the kernels of positivity, you would hope Tyree Wilson continues to trend in the right direction. You would hope that DJ Glaze and Jax Powers-Johnson develop into quality starters by the end of the season. You could look at it and say, these are two guys are going to be starters in 2025. And you're just saying, okay, who can we build around? I think I talked about it last week. Your foundational players, aside from Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins, who got a big contract, aside from Brock Bowers, who's a sensational rookie, find who your core players are and build around those guys, and just kind of have your roster built on that. But if this season, as you said, Scott, it's tricky for Antonio Pierce because we're looking for development. You mentioned development of young players. Antonio Pierce is looking for wins because he's got to save his job.
True.
And he has to find a way to do a little bit of both because he's got to develop those young players, but he also has to find some wins on that schedule. And what's the saying, Scott? It's getting late early. You got the Chiefs on Friday. You got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who are trying to push for a playoff spot right after that. You get a couple extra days of preparation for that. But I say this again, and I've said this multiple times, other than the Saints in week 17, the Jaguars in week 16, I don't see more than 2 wins left on his schedule. And is 4-13 good enough for Antonio Pierce to keep his job? I would say I would lean toward no with everything else going on.
Yeah, and I would say it's getting harder for me, and I tried hard, Mo. I tried hard to see even 2 more wins. Because this team, now look, the win against Baltimore is a good example. They came back and they showed some moxie, but I haven't seen 4 quarters of football. And so until you can play 4 quarters of football, how are you going to win any game? Now, if they happen to do it, that's fine. And I'm not going to go into Friday's game against Kansas City thinking they're going to get blown out. I think they certainly could. But I'm not there, but I also don't see, I see that like they did against Denver. Like you said, it was 16-13 going in the third quarter, and then what happens? You had a third quarter touchdown to Sutton, and then you had a 70-yard touchdown drive in the fourth quarter in the start of that. So they couldn't hold it together for all 4 quarters, and so it's hard for me to see anything on the schedule that's a win, right? I mean, Jacksonville's the best opportunity, but like you said, they're always the get right game.
And they're going to continue to be the get right game if these injuries, again, I'm not saying injuries are the reason they're losing these games, but you talked about Gardner Minshew at the top of the show. I'm not saying he's a difference maker, but is Aiden O'Connell going to be ready on a short week? Now, Vic Tafur and Deshaun Reed said they both expect Aiden O'Connell to return for Friday's game. But what if he's not ready? Let's remember he fractured his thumb. They say he threw
Mm-hmm.
a little bit at practice. AP said this, that he threw a little bit of practice. But it doesn't mean he's going to be ready to play a full football game after being on the shelf on a short week in Kansas City at that. So remember the last time the Raiders beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the Kansas City on Christmas Day, Aiden O'Connell didn't complete a pass after the first quarter. We talked about that a lot coming into this year. And to throw him out there on a short week coming off of an injury, I think that could spell disaster, which means I still think there's a possibility that Desmond Ridder starts. Now, the Raiders have surprised you and I throughout the season with their quarterback decisions. So it wouldn't surprise me either if they do throw Aiden O'Connell out there, because it would tell me that they do not trust Desmond Ridder at all. Remember, coming out of the bye, Scott, you and I thought they were going to start Desmond Ridder. And for them to stick with Gardner Minshew tells me they had very little trust in playing Desmond Ridder. Very little trust in him. Yeah. And either way, for me, it's a tough ask. Desmond Ridder in Kansas City with his ball security issues, Aiden O'Connell coming off of a significant injury in Kansas City. Not liking this outlook for Friday's game, but as we saw last year on Christmas Day, anything can happen between division rivals.
Yeah, and I think to the point is, do you want to bring Aiden O'Connell back in a hurry in cold weather? It's going to be 36 degrees in Kansas City on Friday at game time, and it'll start to get colder as the game goes on. And yes, you might not have the confidence Desmond Ridder, but you're in the spot, and Pierce talked about it in the post-game press conference, is like they got nobody left. Murph was on the show Sunday saying Carter Bradley, and you know what? I might like to see the kid play, right? Why not? At some point during the season. It's probably not right now in Kansas City Black Friday game, but I do think why not see him later in the season, see if he's worth anything. But now I would start Ridder just because. I mean, the turnover thing is a real deal. He's had 17 fumbles in 22 career games. It's remarkable. And he leads the league in that category. It's pretty crazy, but we'll see. Antonio Pierce really has never chosen the quarterback the way you and I would, based on performance and some of those other things as you mentioned. So we'll see how it rolls out. Okay, we're up against our first break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little more about the future of the Raiders, about Antonio Pierce, and what this team could do. I'm going to give you 3 words or 4 words that I think they should, and what Mark Davis should do. Coming up after the break. A reminder, our video brought to you by our good friends at BetUS. Make sure you get that special deal, which you'll hear about here up in the next segment. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you get your audio. It's Scott, it's Mo. We're coming back just after this. Welcome back. Segment number 2 here of Silver and Black today. Hope your Tuesday is going well as we chug towards Thanksgiving. Maybe some of you are listening to us on the road. Maybe you're going to see family for the Thanksgiving holiday. If you are, drive safe and have a great Thanksgiving. It's Scott, it's Mo. We're back talking Raiders football. And a reminder, do not forget, subscribe to our show wherever you get your audio. We are an Odyssey Sports original podcast. And don't forget to rate and review. If you're watching us on video, make sure you thank the folks at BetUS for bringing it to you. And by the way, you can get an extra special holiday gift from us, 150% sign-up bonus using the code YouTube150. That's YouTube150. 150% bonus up to $2,000. And Mo and I have been betting our football there, as you've seen. Love it. They are such good folks. So make sure you go support them, because they support us and they support Raider Nation. So thanks to BetUS. Okay, Mo, we're back. Antonio Pierce, I talked about some of the improvement that I saw in the Denver game. Incremental improvement. Nothing special to write home about. But I'm going to say it as clearly as I can say it. And I know some fans think, oh, well, this is going to be bad. But you got to press the reset button, my friend. You've got to reset on the coaching perspective. You got to figure out how the front office is going to work. And I'm not talking about Tom Telesco, who I think if Tom Telesco doesn't find a solution at quarterback going into next season, he's in serious trouble. Because he signed Minshew, and a lot of you have been critical of Tom Telesco for signing Minshew. I still think it was the right signing based on who was available. He was the second, I think, most coveted free agent, and he was coming off a good year. It didn't work out. This was not a Jimmy Garoppolo situation, though. This was not a situation where he was damaged goods and all of that. But it didn't work out. So the pressure's on him, and I don't know how we keep hearing about the Tom Brady thing and what he comes in and what he does and the role and the relationship between those two. But Mo, the reality is you don't keep doing something that's not working in this for the sake of quote unquote consistency. Because if that consistency is just bringing you dysfunction, losing, and poor performance, it doesn't matter. So I think the Raiders got to just press reset. And some of you are like, well, could they keep Patrick Graham? No, you need a whole new mentality. And dare I say it, a whole new culture around that locker room, around those players. And you need to start building with younger players. And that starts in the draft, and that starts at quarterback.
Yeah, I don't get the. I did my Bleacher Report live, and there were more people who were like, Patrick Graham is overrated. But if you remember, Scott, you mentioned Patrick Graham and the C word consistency. What did I say during the offseason? Patrick Graham had one really good year as a DC for the Giants, and he wasn't able to follow up with consecutive good seasons. Did say that. Rewind the tape. But looking at the defense now, I understand injuries. No Nate Hobbs, no Jacorian Bennett, no Marcus Epps, no Christian Wilkins, no Malcolm Kuntz. I get all of that. But overall, I'm watching a defense that's regressing. I think Antonio Pierce pointed out some issues. Now, as you mentioned, better tackling, which is a very basic level improvement. Better tackling out there on the field. But when you have injuries and you lack depth, you start to look at, okay, how is the coaching staff approaching these games? How are the coaches preparing these players like the Cameron Richardson to get out there and play starter reps against guys like Cortland Sutton, who's been around the league? Now, I'm not going to blame the Raiders for losing a battle with Cortland Sutton and Cameron Richardson going head to head, but at the same time, your backups are going to be out there. They have to be prepared to play. And if they're not making plays, this is not a league of excuses. And I know fans are going to hate to hear that, but this is not a league of, oh, we don't have this. Woe is me. We don't have that. This player's not playing. It's either you do the job and you succeed at it or you don't. You either win the game or you lose the game. What a rare tie. But it's either good thing or you're failing. And the Raiders right now, as an operation, offense and defense, that offense has shown incremental improvements, but we both agree that we don't think Scott Turner is going to be back. The defense has regressed. I talked about how many points they've allowed even before coming into the Denver Broncos game. They're still allowing about 30 points a game over the last 7. There's regression all around, Scott. And as time goes on, as the weeks go on, as I said briefly 5 minutes ago, it's looking more and more clear that Antonio Pierce won't be back as the Raiders head coach, because there aren't many things that you can point to say, at least he did this well, and you can hang on to this, you can take this and carry it over to next season. How much of what the Raiders are doing right now can you carry over to next season and say, we can build on that?
No, and you talked about the defense. The defense is last in the NFL in takeaways with 5. That's worse than the Panthers. Worse than some of the bottom feeders in the entire league. So to me, that is, to your point about, there's the Mosai. There you see that, yes, injuries play a part, but again, the defense has not come up big when it has to. Not that they don't play great in spots, because they do. Not that they don't have some talent. Look, I thought against Bo Nix, a very hot quarterback, right now, without question, he's the front runner for Offensive Player Rookie of the Year over Jaden Daniels, who's faltered recently. You look at him and that patchwork Raiders defensive backfield with the injuries to Nate Hobbs and so on played okay. I mean, they weren't great, but they're backups. Okay. So you look at that and you say, okay, but this team there's no ball hawks. We thought that the defense under Patrick Graham, under Antonio Pierce, a defensive minded head coach, would be very aggressive. And those types of defenses, you expect them to hit hard, to create turnovers, right? Maybe they give up points, but if you're creating turnovers and your offense can capitalize, you put yourself in a much better situation, right? And they just haven't been able to do that. So it's hard for folks to look at this team and say, okay, they had such high expectations, and guess what? On almost every single little detail of how you play this game, the Raiders have just faltered. They just haven't been able to do it, and that goes back to leadership. So I think about that, and I think about the too little, too late. Even if there is subtle improvement, you can't get subtle improvement if you're the ownership group. If you're Tom Telesco, if you're Tom Brady, if he's involved, and you look at the situation, Mo, going into 2025, where you got a ton of cap space, so you're going to be able to. Not only do you have to focus on the draft, but you can focus on a couple key free agents if you want to. And you have to fill a lot of spots and create that pipeline of young players coming into this team on those rookie contracts. If that's the case, I can't say, yeah, I'm going to continue to drive the car on 4 cylinders when it's a 6-cylinder with this current driver. And so if you're not there yet, I think you're denying what is truth in front of you. You know, I was going back and forth with our good friend Phil Robinson, who hosts the Unfiltered Truth, and he's defending Antonio Pierce to the end, in essence, saying that the reason they're not performing well, look, he didn't have a quarterback, he's got injury, da 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 da. But as you said earlier, that's not an excuse. That's not an excuse for a lack of preparation or a game management or the sloppiness we've seen, Mo. It's just not. Again, it's nothing against. I like Antonio Pierce, what he had to sell us. I was all on board with that piece of him. But again, as he said, resume on the grass, and the resume on the grass, he has a winning percentage almost near Josh McDaniels. I think it's a little worse, actually. And so guess what? It is what it is. And I think it's time for the Raiders to move on once the season ends.
I think I said this 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. You have to look at the candidates available. It's not just about Antonio Pierce at this point. What the way I look at it is, okay, who is interested in the job? And are those individuals more qualified than Pierce, or do they bring a better upside or more upside than Pierce would bring? So I'll just start a name because everyone's talking about Ben Johnson. I'll throw out the name that I like as a head coach candidate, Liam Cohen, offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If Liam Cohen is interested in the Raiders job, are you hiring Liam Cohen? Or are you saying, no, we're going to stick it out with Antonio Pierce? And this goes back to the core question that I've had, which is very simple, and I'll keep it at this, and you can answer this, Raider Nation, in your head or in the chat or on a call. With the Raiders rebuild coming up in 2025, do you trust this coaching staff to get it right with not only the quarterback, but the wide receiver they're probably going to draft, the running back that they're probably going to draft? What has gone on with Zamir White in the backfield this season and Alexander Madison? Do you trust this coaching staff to build up a young football team to be viable in a short period of time? If the answer is no, or you pause, you have any doubt, it's time to move on.
Yeah, and to me, that's where we're at. I mean, I can't think of anybody other than fans, and God bless them, who like Antonio Pierce, who love Antonio Pierce, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I like the guy's attitude, great player, and all of that. But at the same time, it's not translating. So much of what we saw last year has just not translated. It's a different. And remember, Mo, you and I talked about this back in August. It's much different being the substitute teacher when the main teacher's away, as it is being the full-time teacher where you got all the responsibility and it's now your ship to captain. And maybe, opportunity presents itself. I don't blame Antonio Pierce for taking the job or wanting the job. Nothing wrong with that. Just like I don't blame Daniel Jones for his big contract in New York. I don't think he's a very good quarterback. But guess what? The Giants gave him the money. He's not going to turn it down. It's not his fault. I don't hold against him. But the same thing here with Antonio Pierce. I think Mark Davis, again, didn't have a good process, but he made what he thought was the right choice. It just happens to be the wrong choice. So I think they got to move on. They got to focus on building in that draft. Tom Telesco, not good at hiring coaches, but he's very good. I think has a good record of drafting overall, even though some Charger fans would argue with that. But I think he's got an opportunity to do that. And if the Raiders front office changes with a Tom Brady or somebody else coming in to oversee it as well. That'll make it stronger, hopefully. And then you get an opportunity to build this team the right way, and that is by young talent. They need young talent still on the offensive line. They need it on defense. And more importantly, they needed a quarterback. So if I'm the Raiders, Mark Davis, this is the perfect opportunity, right? Antonio Pierce was always going to be an underdog and was climbing uphill to be successful. And so you have an opportunity now to reset where you're going to come off a tough year. It makes a lot of sense. It's a clean break. The players who lobbied for Antonio Pierce, which there's only a couple still on the team that were very loud about it, they got their wish, didn't work out. So now everybody can move on cleanly.
Everyone can move on cleanly, and everyone can move on with an open mind. Either, like I said, the players are going to have their opinions, and they're entitled to that. But Mark Davis has to set the vision for this franchise, being that he is the owner. And while I don't trust his football decisions, it will be his decision on who to, I guess, allow make those football operations decisions. So that still has to come from Mark Davis. So you still have to kind of trust Mark Davis to make the right decision there. Like, while we don't trust his football decisions, he still has to make a decision to put someone else in charge of it, right? So you would hope that Tom Brady comes in with his acumen. He can, give his advice, particularly on the quarterback position. I think we had Baldy on last week, and he said, now, if Tom Brady's evaluating offensive linemen, probably don't want that. But if he's evaluating quarterbacks and giving tips on quarterbacks, how to prepare, technique, footwork, mechanics, great. But when it comes to all the other positions, that should be all of Tom Telesco and his scouting department. Let the people who are paid to do their jobs do their jobs. Because we talked about that all season, right, Scott? AP has a bunch of advisors helping guys do their jobs. Just hire the person to do the job.
Yeah, you don't need the mentor in the building. Again, it's not an internship. So we'll see how it goes. But I stand strong. I don't think there's any. They could go beat the Chiefs by 20 points, and my position won't change. Okay, I just want to say that up front. But the glimmer of hope, and Mo, I've come around because we had this discussion several weeks ago, where I thought the Raiders were much further away from being a competitive team. You said, no, you could turn it around pretty quickly. And I think you look at the Denver Broncos. Look at the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix, who. Remember, we were talking about Bo Nix and the Raiders possibly, and we saw in Vic Tafer's post-game piece this week, he talked about how Tom Telesco, the Raiders, they didn't like Bo Nix. So even if we liked him, the Raiders were never going to take him. And certainly he's doing really well in Denver. Look, it's early. I'm not calling a guy an MVP candidate, but he is the offensive rookie of the year at this point. And it shows you how quickly you can turn around a couple key moves, especially when you're quarterback. Because at the beginning of the season, up until week 4, they weren't doing well. Bo Nix, something clicked in his head. Guy's had a lot of games. He's experienced. Remember, he's had more college football games as a quarterback than anybody before. And so he came in there and he finally had a breakthrough, and he's been a nonstop force. He didn't light it up per se against the Raiders like he did a couple of the other weeks, but it doesn't matter. And so as much as you guys all hate the Broncos, or the Donkeys as you call them, look at what they were able to do and turn it around very quickly. Not saying they're winning a Super Bowl, but they're in the playoff hunt, and they're 4.5 games ahead of the Raiders in the AFC West. So don't lose hope, because they could turn it around quickly with the right moves. All right, we're going to turn it around quickly. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to do another Raider Nation mailbag. Got a few calls today, and we'll get to those. We have, of course, Thanksgiving this week. We have the game on Friday. So we'll see you guys all after that. But don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your audio. Rate and review. Give us a 5-star. Yes. Haven't had a 1-star in a long time. We get them occasionally. That's okay. Some people don't like the show, but we appreciate when you rate it and leave your comments. Also, a good shout out and a thank you to our folks at BetUS, who are the sponsor of the video portion of this podcast. So thank you to them. Make sure you check them out and get that 150% bonus up to $2,000 when you sign up using the code YouTube150. We're coming right back with your calls here on Silver and Black today.
Enough of hearing us talk about the Raiders. It's time to hear from you.
Any Oakland Raider fan, Las Vegas Raider fan,
Stand up. On this edition of the Raider Nation Mailbag.
That black hole rocking and rolling.
Don't be a wallflower. Be a part of the show. Leave your question or message by calling 702-900-7869. That's 702-900-7869. Or drop us an email at mail@silverandblacktoday.com.
Oh, yes. We're back. And I think some of the folks who usually call in to vent took the week off. I think it's the holiday week. I think people are trying to keep their peace, Mo.
That's
right.
That's good.
Go to Thanksgiving. You don't want to bring your Raider Nation frustration to the table along with the contested politics.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Don't bring politics up at Thanksgiving. Just have fun. Enjoy people. There's some people who can't resist, though. And if those people are, you know what you do? You get up and you say, hey, excuse me. Go have a drink. Take a breath. That's it. By the way, are you a big turkey guy for Thanksgiving?
Absolutely. Big turkey guy, ham, all the fixings. We call it dressing. I know some people say stuffing, but where I come from, we call it dressing. So as I said to you, Scott, off air, Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. So I'm definitely not talking any Raiders at the Thanksgiving table.
Yeah, no,
off the table
for sure. And I'll tell you what, I love turkey too. I mean, just love it. And I'm the only person in my family who likes it. So they're always pushing me not to do turkey on Thanksgiving, right? I'm like, are you kidding me? So I did relent. You know, you got to have household peace, Mo. You've been married 28 years. You got to do that. So we're doing prime rib this year, but I did get a turkey breast. I'm like, hey, because one of my sons likes turkey, actually, my youngest. And so I'm like, okay, I'm getting a turkey breast because I'm having friggin' turkey on Thanksgiving. Just, you're not denying me that. It's a couple days after my birthday. Come on. That's what I want for my birthday. So I'll enjoy the prime rib too. Don't get me wrong. But we're going all in on that one. So sweet potato pie, right?
Unfortunately, Scott, not a sweet potato pie guy.
No,
I don't like pie at all. I'm more of a cake
that's
person.
Right.
I'm more of a cake person. I don't. If people who know me know, I don't eat pie at all. I don't eat any type of pie. It's nothing against sweet potato. I just don't eat pie. I eat cake. So maybe I'm just weird that way. If anyone listening agrees with me on that one, just don't like pie. I just don't like the texture of it.
My recently married daughter, who now we're one Goldbranson shorter now because she's got a different name. She's the same way though. She doesn't like that. And then like I love eggs. I eat eggs a lot, and I have two kids who think eggs is like eating snot. Right? That's how bad, disgusting the thing. I'm like, I don't understand that, but everybody's got their own taste. So Mo will have rainbow cake, right? Mm-hmm. And who makes the rainbow cake?
Usually someone in the family. So whoever's house we gather at, whoever's going to have the biggest gathering at their house, usually makes the rainbow cake. So that'll be either my aunt, who's upstate New York. It used to be my aunt in South Carolina. Sometimes it's my mom. In about 10 to 15 years, it may be me because I actually know how to make the rainbow cake. I have the recipe. When there's a Mrs. Moten, she will be making the rainbow cake. But until that time it becomes official, I pass it down or pass it over to her. It may be me making the rainbow cake one year.
Yes. And remember, hashtag Mrs. Midtown.
Oh, man.
Wherever she may be.
When you see me up here and I have like a more of a understanding tone to football, and I'm like, now we have to be nicer to these players, then I'm married because I'm more understanding and more of my emotional side is coming out there. So
I understand. That's good. We'll be here to support you, Mo. I promise you. All right. Now we're going to get into your calls. And first up, we got our buddy Tarek, who was texting me. He texted me his score. He was close again. The margin of victory was the same. He had the score a little higher. I had the score a little lower. But here's Tarek with his take and his latest. Here he goes.
What is up, Scott and Mo? This is Tarek calling you guys from Seattle. Hope you guys are well. Just watching another abysmal performance. What an abysmal season. I predicted 31-23 Donkeys. We just have such hot trash at quarterback. I mean, Minshew looks like he is done for the year. thank goodness. No, don't want anybody to get injured, but he's probably glad that he doesn't have to get back out there. I mean, the guy's just he's been such a horrible quarterback for us this whole year. We clearly have the worst running game in the entire league. I think one thing to look forward to is that we moved to the number 3 overall pick at this point so far. 7 straight losses, and man, this season just can't end soon enough. To get swept again by Denver with a rookie quarterback. And we'd beaten them 8 previous times. Just again, Raider came in, fumbled the football when they were down by 7. I mean, again, just indicative and symbolic of just how the season has gone. Again, can't end soon enough. Looking forward to your guys' show. Have a fantastic week, and I will talk to you guys again soon. I wish I could say go Raiders, but, there's just not a whole lot left to root for at this point. You guys have a great week. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
All right, there's Tarek calling in from Boston or Seattle.
Yeah,
Excuse me, he was in Seattle. He actually texted me a picture from his hotel. He could see the stadium where the Seahawks were getting ready to kick off. So good stuff. But he brings up the point there too about not much to look forward to. And I think I see a lot of fans out there who are looking towards the draft, and we're going to start covering it a little more earlier than we normally would, just to get a sense for how the quarterback pool is and whatnot. But Mo, it's 6 months away. So if you're a Raider fan, it's a long way to wait, and where things end up. Yes, the draft order you'll know after the AFC NFC championship game, pretty much, in the Super Bowl. But it's not enough, I think, to get you through. But I do think that, again, if you look at some of these players, if I'm a Raider fan at this point, I'm rooting for guys like Jackson Power-Johnson. I know it's not sexy because he's a center right now, but also Tyree Wilson and some of these younger players. And if DeCamerion Richardson continues to play because of the injuries at cornerback to Jacorian Bennett, you want to see him develop. Those are the things where I'd find some positives to watch and to focus on the remainder of the season.
Absolutely. We talked about that in segment 2, but I also want to key on something, because we talked about the sweep the Denver Broncos completed on the Raiders. There's a real world where the Raiders go 0-6 in the division this year, Scott. So they have a loss already to the Chargers and the Chiefs, 2 losses to the Denver Broncos. They got a game coming up on Friday in Kansas City, and then they finish the season against the Chargers. If the Raiders go 0-6 in the division with a 3-win record, 2-win record, there is no way Antonio Pierce survives that. There have been some bad Raider teams, and this would rank one of the worst easily. You get swept in your division by all your rivals. You have 2 to 4 wins. You're last in all of these crucial defensive categories. You have no run game. Like, we can talk about injuries all we want, Scott, but like I said, with all the stuff that I just listed off on your resume as a first year head coach is brutal. You just can't have it. Can't have it.
Nope, you can't. And that's why, as I said in segment 2, press the reset button. It's all you can do. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with moving on and thanking everybody for their contribution and focusing on turning the thing around quickly and getting this team competitive in the AFC West, which they are not even close to be doing. So, all right. Thanks again, Tarek. I appreciate it. Now we're going out to Felix in Orange County, California. Here's Felix.
Hey, Scott. No, Felix from Orange County. And I know it's been a running theme the last couple of shows, but I didn't really want to believe it. I don't know if I want to believe it or what, but I don't think Antonio Pierce is going to be back next season. And so, new head coach, probably new staff. I know we're definitely going to be looking at a new coordinator. I don't know about defensive coordinator, but I know we've been looking at our offensive coordinators. We're looking for youth and ingenuity. What do you guys think about Will Stein out of Oregon? He's a pretty young guy. The offense looks great. He brought up Bo Nix last season. Dylan Gabriel looks great this season. I think he would be a great job. I don't know how coaches do coming from college straight to the NFL, but his offense looks great, dynamic, scoring good points, number 1 ranked. And then as far as defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh's looking for a job now, and his defense looked pretty good in San Francisco when he was a DC there. So I don't know what your guys' thought is on that and what we can do with the upcoming head coaching job, probably, or definitely at least coordinators. Let me know what you guys think. Love the show, by the way.
All right, there's Felix from Orange County. Thanks for calling in, buddy. Good question too. He talked about Will Stein at Oregon. Of course, Oregon #1 in the country, probably going to face Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. Teams 1 and 2 playing each other in a championship game. Pretty crazy. But Mo, he brings up a good point, which is, we talk about the young offensive coordinators in the league and some of those candidates. You mentioned Liam Cohen earlier. Of course, everybody talks about Ben Johnson. What about college? The jump from college to pro has worked at times. It's also been a massive disaster. What are your thoughts on the Raiders considering somebody like that?
I'm fine with it. Interview him. What is his plan for the offense? What is his vision? And you make the decision from there. So our most recent example of college coach, offensive coordinator jumping to the NFL to be an offensive coordinator is Ryan Grubb in Seattle. Our friend Tarek is now in Seattle, by the way, ironically. But Ryan Grubb from Washington, UW. I know our guy Stoic Raider likes that mention. Going from UW to Seattle. So staying close. And right now his offense, I'm looking at it, 12th in yards, 15th in points. Now it's not great, kind of in the middle of the pack. I pay attention to a lot of Seattle Seahawks games. They've been up and down. My one criticism would be, I think they haven't. I don't think they've fully utilized Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think he could
Agreed.
be a downfield target, and they didn't really see that until DK Metcalf got injured, and they started throwing downfield to JSN, and they're like, oh, hey, wow, he could be a downfield threat. So there is a learning curve there, coming from the college ranks to the pro ranks. And I think there are going to be some bumps in the road, simply because it's just a different speed of the game. Just like when players step on the field as pros, they tell you all the time, different speed of the game. I think the same goes for play callers. Now you'd be taking a risk, but if you want to be innovative, you may have to go into the college ranks, because depending on what's available, a lot of the top offensive coordinators in the NFL are going to want head coaching jobs. Usually when you get a experienced offensive coordinator on the pro level who has experience on the pro level, usually that guy maybe fizzled out here or there. Maybe he had some ups and downs. I look at Kellen Moore as a prime example, right? So does well in Dallas. He's mentioned as a head coaching candidate, doesn't become a head coach, has a bump in the road in Los Angeles, if you remember, was paired with Brandon Staley. Didn't do so well in Los Angeles. Now, I know Justin Herbert got hurt, but that kind of killed his head coaching buzz. Now goes to Philly, and look at the Philadelphia Eagles offense. So the Raiders are going to look at two things when it comes to offensive coordinators. Of course, it's going to matter who they hire a head coach, because that head coach is going to have his network. But you can go college offensive coordinator for fresh thoughts, or you can go for an offensive coordinator who has experience, may have had a bump in the road like a Kellen Moore, and maybe looking to redeem himself. So it's just a matter of what type of coach fits with the head coach that you're going to have in 2025.
Yeah, it would be interesting. And, the coaching pool, you'll start to hear more of that towards the end of the season, and see who's on fire, who's hot from college ranks and the pro ranks, because as they continue to do well through the playoffs, some of those teams, and remember Eric Bieniemy, remember how hot he was, never got hired. I mean, he won 2 Super Bowls with the Chiefs and didn't get a head coaching job. So it all depends, and we'll see where things go with that one. But great call, Felix. We appreciate it as always. And now we go out to our good friend Yandog. Here's Yandog.
Yes, Scott, Mo, Yandog from Middletown, New York. My comment, it'll be short and sweet. I just want to say that the way the Raiders are going right now, with another loss being 2-9, if they can hopefully get a quarterback for the future, and a quarterback that can help them, hopefully, because like I said, there's about 5 of them out there. And if it's the way they're going, they can get maybe a 3rd or 4th pick. They'll be able to get somebody good. That's the only thing that we can look forward to, because this is the worst of the worst of all the years I've been following Raiders. This is terrible. And I hope that they can get their franchise quarterback, and that's what we're rooting for. But who the hell knows the way they're playing? They might even screw that up. But it's just a sad situation. But you guys keep up the good work, and love listening to you, like I always said. So, but that's about it, really. There's really not much to look forward to because I think the way they're going, we don't have to worry about tanking it. They'll go 2-15 on their own. So, anyway, guys, keep up the good work. Good job. And we will talk soon. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. There's Yan Dog. Thanks for the call, man. And yeah, keep your head up. You've been a fan for a long time. I know it's hard, but I do think, as I said earlier, Mo, the pressure is going to be on Tom Telesco. And listen, the one thing that I see a lot of people talking about when they talk about quarterbacks is even if the Raiders are third, there's going to be teams that want to be aggressive, that want to move ahead of them, that need a quarterback, right? So if the order was how we see it today, with the Jaguars first, Giants second, Raiders third, the Giants need a quarterback. But if somebody offers them a deal they can't refuse, to quote The Godfather, then you could very well see somebody hop ahead of you and get the quarterback you want, or two teams hop ahead of you because Jacksonville, they have their quarterback. Yeah, they might want a Travis Hunter or somebody else, but they might be willing to move down to number 5 or 6 to pick up an extra pick or 2, probably 2. And so they need to build their team as well. So you remember, just because the Raiders are third in draft order doesn't mean they're assured of a quarterback. They certainly have a better chance, but Tom Telesco may still have to be aggressive to protect that position.
This is my stance if I'm the Raiders going into the offseason. Unless I'm picking first or second, I'm trading up for my quarterback. Because if you're thinking it's Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, or nobody else, or a big drop off after that, and you want one of those two guys, as you just said, the Jaguars are in one of those top 2 spots. I think the Jaguars are going to stick with Trevor Lawrence, because just paid him a massive salary this past offseason. I don't think they move on after they just paid him all of that money. You would think that teams are going to be calling the Jaguars to move up. So if you're the Raiders and you sit at 3 and you sit there thinking, yeah, Cam or Shedeur Sanders is going to fall to us at 3. No, that is the wrong mindset to have, because a team that needs a quarterback, i.e. maybe the Titans, I know Will Levis has shown improvement, but any other team that needs a quarterback can easily just pick up the phone, call up whoever the Jaguars GM and says, hey, we'll give you multiple ones to move up to your spot. And all of a sudden you're sitting at 3 and the two teams in front of you have taken Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders in whatever order. So unless you're 1 or 2, if you're Tom Telesco, you better be willing to trade up and get your guy. Stop playing around with the quarterback position. I don't want to sit through another season of Band-Aid backup low-end starting quarterbacks, and we're sitting here at this time next year, Scott, having the same discussions about, man, the Raiders need a quarterback. You gotta be aggressive. Go get your guy, whoever that is. Unless you're 1 or 2, plan on moving up.
Yes. And especially in the AFC West, where it appears, with the way Bo Nix has played, again, it's small sample size, and I think until a quarterback puts 2 or 3 years together, it's hard to really know for sure. But it looks like every other team in the AFC West has their franchise quarterback. We know Kansas City does, we know LA does, and Denver appears to. So if you go another year without getting your guy, I don't see how you recover over the next 5 to 8 years. Really, I just don't. And so that's how important it is. And don't talk about draft capital, because whatever they got to give up to get their guy, if it's Shedeur Sanders, who I tend to gravitate towards, then do it. If you really believe he's the guy. If the new coaching comes in, the GM believes that that's the case, then you pay whatever it is. I'm not talking about giving away all your draft picks like Cleveland did to get Deshaun Watson, but draft picks are draft picks. You can always go get it. They have an opportunity. I think for maybe the window's closing on them for these opportunities, especially with the salary cap they have, all the things that they can put together. So we'll see. So Yan Dog, what we're saying is, if they do what they're supposed to do, if they're aggressive and they protect their position in the draft and try to move up to get their guy, then things should be a much better going into 2025. All right. That's going to close it out for this pre-Thanksgiving show, or one of our pre-Thanksgiving show. We'll talk to you on Thanksgiving as well. Yes, we'll have an episode out on Thursday. Maybe we'll put it out Wednesday night for you so you can listen to it on your way to your big feast. Mo, tell everybody else what you got this week with the holiday, with the Big Friday coming up with the Raiders and the Chiefs. What's going on this week in the Mo Moton world?
I'll be on Bleacher Report live with an avocado smoothie on Thanksgiving Eve, Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. Bringing your turkey, bring your ham, no pie, as I said on this show. Bring a slice of cake. We'll talk Raiders, as agonizing as stomach turning as it may be for some people. Prepare you maybe for the Black Friday game if you're going to watch and spend time away from your family and give more time to the Raiders. We'll talk about that. Friday, actually, the game will be played, and then post game I'll be on after, win, lose, or tie. We'll break it down. Hopefully the Raiders give maximum effort and give you something to talk about Friday on Black Friday after that matchup.
Yes, and I know the Christmas gift that the Raider fans got last year with the big win. Not sure you're going to get that this time, but you never know. I saw a stat that was tweeted out that said the Raiders, when they're more than 10-point favorites, actually do better, or 10-point underdogs, excuse me, against the Chiefs do better versus when they're under that. So you got that going for you. We'll see how it goes. But we'll be back. We'll preview the Chiefs game when we come back on Wednesday, Thursday. And we will also give you, we're going to do a little exercise in who are the biggest turkeys around the NFL. And, it's themed. We're trying to have some fun. Keep it light for you going into the holiday. So join us. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your audio. Make sure you rate and review. Also, if you're watching us on video, make sure to subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and give us a like if you would. We appreciate that very much. And again, I want to remind you of our special offer from our folks at BetUSA, 150% sign-up bonus up to $2,000. Use the code YouTube150. That's YouTube150. Start playing today. Mo, I will see you later in the week. Take care, my friend.
Take care, Scott. Happy birthday. Keep your head up, Raider Nation.
I appreciate that. All right. For our producer, Mike Robier, for Mo Moton, I'm Scott Colbrands, and this has been Silver and Black today. We'll see you guys later in the week. Enjoy your week.